Hello YouTube, Morgan, Airspeed Prime here. Just want to intro this episode commentary, and basically this is going to be episode commentary for 209 Bitter Work, Season 2, Episode 9. So set up that episode to be ready to play when I basically tell you that the commentary is going to start. I'm going to stop speaking in a moment, and then when I do that, that's when you want to press play on your episode, and like basically when I start speaking again after the pause, that will be when you press play in your episode, and then it'll be synced up. Make sure that you have it synced up so that it includes the opening, the opening of the show, so the fire, earth, air, water intro of the show that plays in front of every episode. Make sure you have that bit, and then you should be synced up. So I'm going to stop speaking now, and then when I start speaking again, press play on your episode. Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Bannon or Airspeed Prime here, and I am here today with the episode commentary for episode 209, Bitter Work. And as I forgot to mention at the start, I am the site super moderator for Avatar The Last Airbender Online. Go there for Avatar discussion and Avatar news. You know you want to. The first thing to note about this episode is that the title of this episode, Bitter Work, is referenced in the episode 306, The Avatar and the Fire Lord, with Roku referring to his time learning the elements, and telling us that, like, for an Avatar, learning the elements is not always easy. Aang learned waterbending fairly easily, and we presume he learned airbending fairly easily. But he's going to struggle with earthbending, as we'll see here. We have been introduced to Toph previously. We've had 2 episodes kind of with her as part of the group, and she's sort of still integrating into the group, which is interesting. And what's interesting about this is that, like, this is episode 209, and in episode 109 we had Aang starting to learn waterbending, and in episode 209 here we're going to have Aang starting to learn earthbending, really, for the first time. So it's a great kind of contrast between the first and second season. You know, we start up here with Aang super excited to learn this. You know, he is excited about the prospect of having this kind of new power, earthbending. Obviously, Sokka just wants to sleep, especially after what has happened in the Chase episode. We know it's interesting Toph's kind of teaching style from when you compare how she learned from the Badger Moles to how she is teaching Aang here. It's kind of not the same. I hear the relationship of Toph with the rest of the group. She's like, "Come on, toughen up, you. Wake up." Sokka just wants to sleep. And again, like Aang was with firebending, he's just like, "Teach me how to do the biggest move ever." And Aang's just like, "Move a rock." Let's go. Yes, do that. And here we get the philosophy of airbending. You have to be rooted. You have to go head on, face everything head on. And we know Aang is defensive, not just in his fighting, but also in kind of confronting people as well. He kind of tends to avoid conflict for the most part. Kind of like verbal and physical conflict, both. And again, you know, he's kind of just tries head on. And then we come back to, we ended the last episode with Iroh injured. He was hit with a little fire blast from Azula. And we're kind of not sure about if he's his situation is it bad, is it not bad? But we see here that, like, okay, he was unconscious for a while, but it's not terrible. And we see just how much Zuko cares about Uncle Iroh here. His uncle. He makes him some tea. Iroh's just like, yay, tea, and he drinks it, and just like being the kind of tea connoisseur that he is, he's just like, this isn't good, but you know, I'm happy Zuko's made me some, so that's good. And there's a little animation thing tossing the tea out the window, and he asks to learn more firebending, and like he realizes that like, oh, I shouldn't be saying this about my sister, and then he's kind of shocked when Iroh says, yes, you need to be more powerful to face Azula. And then this is a great episode kind of contrasting how Aang will learn and how Zuko will learn. And then here's Aang's airbending philosophy once again. Try and be creative, come up with an idea. But it's earthbending, you just have to face it head on, bam, straight through it. And then it just kind of emphasised with this kind of head on attitude with Toph just headbutting a rock and, and absolutely annihilating it. And here's Katara's experience with teaching Aang and knowing Aang for longer. And all Toph hears is gentle nudge, and she's just like, ooh, I'll use a gentle nudge as in a push hard. And then her training is just like, build up your strength, get used to like being hit with rock. And then like they always do this kind of training montage well with just the creativeness of airbending. Again, Aang kind of light on his feet, not used to kind of staying still, just like resisting something like that. And you know, we see Aang start to kind of learn some things, but like Toph's training methods are like really intense. Like, I'm gonna come at you like this, and Aang, you know, we see here he's getting it, he's beginning to get it. You see strength pushes Toph back, and you know, this is great. You know, he hasn't done any bending yet, but you know, you can tell he's getting Toph's kind of training situations here. He's sort of facing things head on, not kind of dodging them. And then we have this kind of like third kind of subplot here with Sokka hunting and dealing with kind of animals. We know Sokka has a kind of decent connection with any animals because like he makes friends really easily. Animals don't seem to attack him as much as others. And here's Fufu Cuddly Poops, the saber-toothed moose lion cub in this case. And he gets kind of stuck in this kind of opening in the ground, and this kind of thing where like this little baby saber-toothed moose lion cub has the kind of power over him and how he'll deal with that. And here we get the backstory on what lightning generation is. And then kind of Iroh didn't realize, like, oh yeah, that's why I was giving you tea, to calm your mind. And he's just like, I need to remember that next time I teach someone lightning. And there we see you have to separate positive and negative energies. You need a clear mind, no inner turmoil. Well, what do we know? That is the kind of one like defining aspect of Zuko, inner turmoil over kind of like he's beginning to find his path, but he's still kind of stubbornly staying on it. He has not found his way yet. That is the kind of big thing for Zuko. And we see just kind of epic thing. Zuko watches on in complete kind of awe, admiration as Iroh does this kind of amazing lightning generation. Again, it was kind of so kind of the kind of zen aspect of it. It's completely non kind of firebender what lightning generation is. We see they're very kind of aggressive, even like kind of Iroh when he bends fire. It's all kind of very aggressive, like punches straight forward. But lightning generation is kind of very peaceful, calm. It is kind of like referring back to what firebending is, kind of life, that sort of thing, just calming down. And we see it is that kind of conflict of styles in both these stories, Aang and Zuko. Aang kind of the conflict between earthbending mentality and airbending mentality, and then Zuko with his kind of rage, kind of anger style of firebending, and the way I was teaching him to like kind of learn the kind of breath of fire, life, that sort of thing, and how that is the way to learn lightning bending, but his kind of anger to do with related to kind of his getting his honor back in his father, how that's kind of holding him back. He can't get over that inner turmoil. And here's Aang's big moment to learn some airbending, and it's like such a weird moment from Toph. She's just like, yeah, you don't get this, you're gonna die. And the way she kind of handles Aang dodging this is just like, you're just like, whoa, Toph is so tough. He's like, you could have at least given the rock the kind of honor of smushing you. And there's the kind of thing, Aang doesn't have the kind of guts. We see the facial expressions from Katara, and just like watching on as Aang struggles, and how kind of she doesn't really agree with Toph's teaching style. And we see Aang again, these sincere moments in the episode. Aang admits he can't get it at the moment. It's just not going to happen for him right now. And that line from Zuko, like everything always does, it's kind of like a whiny line, but like it's so true for his character. This turmoil is just holding him back nearly in every aspect of his life in that sort of way. And then here we have kind of this pride is not the opposite of shame. And then that's the thing. Zuko has been, as we see in Zuko alone, he announced himself as the Prince of the Fire Nation. He kind of still considers himself that. He has to kind of admit now that he is an outcast. He has to kind of revel in that aspect, that like he is not a prince anymore. He is not kind of privileged anymore. Iroh kind of realized that he's not going to get lightning generation, but I can at least teach him kind of the skill I learned. Something that Azula doesn't know. Something that will get you the kind of better of her at some stage. Lightning redirection. And then again we come back to like away from the kind of big kind of emotional conflicts while the Aang and Zuko learn, to Sokka, just this kind of humorous thing of this huge saber-tooth moose Lanko, Fufu Cuddly Poops, sitting on top of Sokka's head as Sokka just completely kind of monologues at this animal. Like saying, I'm gonna be like, I'm not gonna eat meat ever again. Ever. Just, no sarcasm. I'll just stay here. And then Sokka thinks this is kind of karma, but like, as I keep saying, I'm not sure if they were kind of going for this or it just kind of happened to happen in the kind of scripts of the episode. But Sokka just has loads of relationships with these animals, where like, he easily tames a ostrich horse. Appa instantly is his best friend. Same with Momo. And then here we get the other aspect of Aang's thing, that like he doesn't just avoid the kind of physical situations, he avoids conflict in every conflict, even these kind of argument things, by avoiding it. And then we have natural opposites, and like a lot of people kind of seem to take this very as this is a rule. Every airbender is going to struggle with earthbending, but it also comes down to personality. Like I think people have been saying stuff about Korra and how as a waterbender, why is she using firebending when it should be her natural opposite? But we know her personality is meant to be hot-headed and stuff like that, and kind of intense. So that may have been kind of easy for her to learn, while she may struggle with something like airbending, as we kind of hope we get more airbending stuff in Korra. She may struggle to kind of detach herself from the world so her spirit can be free. They were kind of the familial thing of the water nation, water tribe. And here we get Zuko gets the lesson on the rest of the world. And we see the kind of wisdom of Iroh. He learned probably this after the death of his son, to do with the spirit world journey, what made him so spiritual. And he does kind of he does more basic sand pictures of these symbols, but it gets the point across nonetheless. And Zuko's just like, this isn't firebending, why are you teaching me this? And Iroh's just like, you need... And we get the kind of everything is connected theme of Avatar here. In that, like, Zuko has just been thinking as a firebending. He realizes this is Avatar based. And then we get why the Avatar is so powerful. He has all the combination of the 4 elements. Zuko needs to learn something from each of these kind of elements to help him. We see here water bending, his kind of natural opposite, is going to help him to learn something he's actually kind of, it turns out to be sort of an expert at, lightning redirection. And we see here Toph taking advantage of the other aspect of Aang avoiding earthbending, the kind of philosophy of airbending, in that like he'll avoid conflict in general, not just physical stuff here. She's just like, okay, I'm gonna steal, I'm gonna take his staff, and he's not gonna like confront me over this. And he doesn't here. We see him kind of like cringe. He cannot stand up to Toph. Toph is a very strong female character, and he just cannot stand up to her. And it's to do with the same thing here. And then it's just here they realize that, oh, Sokka's gone. It's just a great thing in the episode. And again, in these kind of moments, you know, Zuko's sort of beginning to understand some stuff. Aang's kind of at the worst point in it, and here they come back to Sokka. He gives up sarcasm, and she's just like, oh my god, Sokka, stop talking. Don't give up any of that. And then just the way Jack DeCenter reads that line, yay, I'm gonna be saved. Have you got any meat? After he had just been going on and on to this foo-foo cuddly poops about, I'm not gonna get any meat. And Aang needs to use earthbending to get him out, but decides, I'll use airbending. Aang doesn't even attempt to do it at first, you know. That's how much kind of is kind of affected him. And then again, he won't the kind of really uncomfortable thing here. Aang does not realize that Sokka's in a bad situation here. Coming back to the thing about he won't even confront Toph to ask Sokka. That's how much he's kind of avoiding stuff. And then just the thing, Aang keeps saying these things, and Sokka, they so apply to Sokka too. And then just the way he introduces Aang so casually to his kind of friend, Foo-Foo Kulipu. And then here, its mother comes back, and we see that thing's little Foo-Foo Cuddly Poops will grow up to be like that. Wow. And here Zuko learns a little bit of waterbending kind of culture and thing. And you kind of wonder, where in Iroh's story does him studying waterbenders come into play? Was this before or after the death of Liu Ten? There's so much kind of mystery to Iroh's past. You know, we know a few things. We know he visited dragons. We know he went to the spirit world. We know he studied waterbenders. We know he abandoned the siege of Ba Sing Se. But whereabouts, what is the order of all this? You kind of have to think that it is after this. And it's a really kind of emotional moment here with Zuko learning this technique. You know, he thinks he has it, that this one might actually work. He's kind of understanding it. And we see that the reason that you have to kind of redirect it through your stomach is because the fire chakra is in your stomach. It's it's to do with willpower, kind of blocked by shame, and that is the sort of thing that Zuko has to deal with. He kind of gets over this in this episode, sort of, which allows him to kind of do this technique. And once again, Iroh teaches him this. He's not expecting Zuko in any way to ask him to shoot lightning at him, and Zuko does exactly that. That's the kind of intensity coming back in. He's learned something, but hasn't learned other things. So he goes off to find some. And kind of Iroh's like, I like the way Iroh's kind of doesn't get frustrated with him now, making when he actually does get frustrated with him so much of a big moment for both of them. But he's just kind of like really concerned about Zuko. Nothing seems to get through to him, and here Aang tries to earthbend but can't. And I like the way they've kind of did this. Like, here's Sokka's story enters the Aang's story. Aang is going to need to stand up to this saber-toothed moose lion cub in order to save his friend. And when we find out that Toph was watching this, you kind of sort of wonder, oh, did Toph in some way kind of lure this the mother here? Did Toph in some way engineer this situation? And just dust clears, there she is. No one noticed her. The little clap, she knows exactly what happened. Aang stood up. He faced something head on for once. And then Aang's just like, he could have been killed! I could have been killed! And then Toph, the grin on her face. It just didn't occur to me. And here, this is a big moment for Aang, He confronts Toph. What she says here. Even more impressive, you stood your ground against me. What a line. Aang, just so confident from these two things, can now earthbound. And one episode they get over this, I just kind of love the way they've done it. It's not too quick for Aang. He's realized the philosophy behind earthbending. And then Toph's just like, yo, you're not advanced enough. And she just stamps her foot and Sokka's out instantly. And there's this moment built up. The music swells up, and it's just like, Sokka's gonna learn a lesson, and then I'm just like, look what I can do over here! And there, Katara's advice from earlier on comes into it, just bringing everything together, just perfect for this episode. And just a kind of contrast between, how happy they are now that Aang has learned this, and then Zuko atop this mountain, just confronting the universe. He has an ability now. He wants to use it, prove that he can once kind of really deal with something. And it's just such an emotional thing where the one time he kind of asked for something to happen to him, it doesn't happen. Even that won't happen for him. And it's just kind of, he reaches this point where he just does not this just a confusion of Zuko just makes him such an amazing character. Season 2 for Zuko is just amazing for him. Season 1 we had a few hints like the blue spirit, the end of 220, but this, the start of this, bringing Azula into it, introducing us to the backstory with his mother and further history about it with his father, and how kind of Iroh's more of a father to him than Ozai, and how Iroh is really concerned with Zuko kind of still not being able to find his path. He kind of learns one thing, but still goes off in this one path. He cannot get over the honor thing. And like when he finally kind of realizes that, you know, this is not kind of the path that I need to take, it's just such a great moment for his character and makes us as the audience just like him even more. And then, you know, when we get to 220 and he kind of turns back on all this, you're just kind of like, Zuko, you idiot. And you, while you say that kind of in the kind of anger of the moment, you know exactly that is Zuko's character. He's so conflicted. That is what he is. So the next episode is going to be 210, kind of the midpoint of season 2, and once again, like season 1, the midpoint introduces us to kind of a further kind of more story of the show, and I think the start of this kind of story, the Bossing Say storyline, the invasion storyline here, is what really kind of gives the show something extra. It is not just I'm going to learn water, I'm going to learn earth, I'm going to learn fire, then I'm going to confront the Fire Lord. It makes it something a bit different. They introduce the ATLA loss storyline and Bossing Say and stuff like that. And that is what kind of makes this show so good. So I'll see you next time for The Library.